all, Tom Moran here from Tom's Big Spiders. Well, this video has been a couple years in the making. A couple years back, I was contacted by Erin Cashel, who does a lot of breeding, especially some Ephobopus species, and she was a little angry with me, tongue-in-cheek, that I didn't have any Ephobopus species or Ephobopus species, whichever way you want to pronounce it, to present. I hadn't done any husbandry on them. I hadn't really spoken about them. Now, the truth was, I did have an murinus years ago that I raised up. It was a mature male, and I generally don't like to make videos with the mature males. They're just not as pretty as the females usually, so I didn't get it done. So she sent me a bunch of slings, and I made the promise that when the time came, I would do a genus review. Well, we are here, and it is time to do the review, and I'm super excited about this. Again, during the summer, I have more time on my hands, so I kind of held off on this one until A, I got the containers, the enclosures I wanted to use for it, and then B, had the time to sit down and do it. So Bill and I went up to the tarantula room the other day, and we rehoused 4 species of it. We have E. murinus, E. rufescens, E. uatuman, and E. cyanognathus, the blue fang. And again, the common name for the majority of these, we have the red skeleton, we have the emerald skeleton, we have the skeleton tarantula, and then I'm going to call it the blue fang skeleton. It's not a skeleton, but anyway, they look very similar, and I hate that it doesn't have skeleton in the name. There you go. We're going to go ahead and rehouse these guys. I'm going to talk about the care. They're all young adults now, and again, when I do husbandry videos, I love to wait until they put on some size so it shows I know what I'm doing. Anybody can pick up a spider, have it for a couple weeks, and say, hey, this is how you care for them. It's another thing entirely to have the evidence and the proof that you've raised them all the way up. So enough of me talking. Let's take a look at Ephobopus and rehouse 4 different Ephobopus species. All right, to kick off this Ephobopus or Ephobopus extravaganza, we're going to take a look at what I'm going to be putting them into now that they're sub-adults. Now, this video has been a long time coming, so I've had a lot of time to kind of think about what I wanted to put them into, how I wanted to arrange the enclosures, and I did identify these enclosures very early on as ones I wanted to use, so that anybody that has watched my other videos, I've used these a couple times now. I put a Formictopus cochleus vorax into one, and then I put 4 OBTs into them. Now, I was eyeing these enclosures here. These are called the Authentic Joy enclosures. They are acrylic, really, really nice, thick acrylic, well made. The first batch that came out, and this has happened with just about every new enclosure company I've ever purchased from. The first batch, there's problems. So the first batches of these were a mess. They were falling apart. She went ahead and replaced all of the enclosures for anybody that had these issues. This is, I believe, the second. There was another wave in between where they were all fixed. This is the second batch of them where she's added more ventilation holes, because this was my problem with the original ones. I put the OBTs in them because they're a dry species, but I wanted something with more ventilation. So we've almost doubled the amount of ventilation in them. There's ventilation here, 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 and ventilation in the top. So a lot more ventilation. And what we're going to have is our spiders are going to be back here probably digging, bringing up some soil, so it's not going to be as important over here. Now, why I like these, A, they're great for smaller fossorial species or smaller terrestrials that may do some digging, and they're quite versatile in that you can stand them upright and have an arboreal enclosure. So they can go this way. This is what I'm most interested in them for. I like them for terrestrials and fossorials, but you could put a arboreal species in here, put all your stuff in here. It's got the ventilation on the front. For folks who are looking for ventilation and some cross ventilation, remember, having them in a stagnant room where there's no airflow really doesn't do anything. They just sit there. So anybody that had these up on a shelf, if you had a fan, oscillating fan going in the room, bringing just a light breeze, that would help air the whole thing out. But I do like the fact that they're versatile. They hold a lot of substrate as an arboreal. So if I want to put a moisture-dependent arboreal in here that might do some digging, I could. And when you lay them on the side, as you can see, because of where the positioning is, I could fill this with quite a bit of substrate for a fossorial. And that's what attracted me to these enclosures. So I've been eyeing them for a while. She made the changes, added more ventilation. So we're going to use these for the Ephobopus species. Now, as far as the size of these, they are 10 inches high, pretty deep, by 7 inches across by 14 inches this way, or 25.4 by 18 by 35.5 centimeters, which was just about perfect for what I wanted for this these burrowing medium-sized species. Now, as far as the substrate, hopefully what's showing up here, is the level showing up? Yep. Oh, yeah. So what you can see here is when I originally filled these, all I had was moist substrate. And what I like to do with my moisture-dependent species is I fill them with the moist substrate and then I leave them for a while. These I left for about a month or so, just so that that top layer dried out a bit. Because what I want when you have a moisture-dependent species or a burrowing species is for them to be able to burrow down and find the moisture level that they need. So I like to have the dry stuff up top. I will put starter burrows in here that will go down to that moist substrate. So if they go in here and they want moist substrate, they can have it. One of the reasons I wanted this to dry out is because it was starting to get warm. It gets humid here. The humidity in the tarantula room can get up pretty high. And during those periods where it's more humid naturally in the room where the tarantulas are being kept, it's not as important to, well, you want to make sure you don't overdo it with the moisture. So we're going to have the substrate here is my own mix. It is about 45 peat, 45% cocoa fiber, and about 10% vermiculite. I love mixing vermiculite in. You can also use sphagnum moss, shredded sphagnum moss, New Zealand sphagnum moss. It allows the moisture to absorb in very well. And remember, when we add moisture to it, I'm not trying to soak the top. This is what throws people off with species that like moisture. They go in, they soak the top down. That will eventually, some of that will soak down a little bit. Most of it will evaporate by the next day, and it doesn't get down here. We want to keep these bottom layers moist. So what I usually do is I tilt these on the side. I have my bottle. Nope, here it is. I have my bottle. And then what I do is I tilt it on the side and I pour the water down the side, make it rain down the sides as I pour water all over this thing so that it filters down through and keeps those bottom levels moist, allows the top to dry up a little bit. That keeps you from getting as much mold and the fungus and those giant yellow, I had one of these in one of my enclosures this morning, the giant yellow mushrooms that bloom up in like 24 hours. They are freaking crazy to watch grow. So the substrate could you use? I had a lot of folks like, why did you stop using BioDude? It was only because it was getting too expensive for me. Honestly, I love the stuff. It's great stuff. But when you start, you know, this here to fill these enclosures up would have been a lot of money in substrate. So I'm more into mixing my own. That's how I started off. I've gone back to it and I kind of like it because I can mix them for whatever I want to use specifically. So what we're going to do, we got just as far as the depth of substrate, if you notice, the cyanognathus over here, I gave it a little short. This one's more about 4 or 5 inches to 4 or 5 inches in the back because both my cyanognathus created a turret in the back. So that's one of the things that Ephobopus species are known to do. They may burrow, but they may also take some of that debris and they build a turret up the side. And we'll see that when we do the actual rehousing. A couple of them have done that. So because both of mine did that, I wanted to give them that same opportunity here. So we left a little space up top. Also, note on setting up species that are going to burrow. Don't forget that if they burrow, they're going to be bringing up all of that substrate to the top. So you want to make sure you leave room up to in the top for it. I've done this before where I've filled them all the way up to here. Next thing I know it, I have basically a tub that's completely filled with dirt. Always leave room up top. In this case, we're going to leave room up top for them to deposit the substrate that they pull out when they make their burrow, or some room for them to make that turret if they wanted. So that's why we're leaving some space up there. Never, when creating fossorial enclosures, rehousing, especially a lot of the old world species that may do some digging or they may do some webbing, always leave that room up top. And if Billy wants to come over here, I'll show you what we're working with as far as what we're putting in the enclosures. Moss, I have 2 types of moss. The terrarium sphagnum moss, I believe it's, Galapagos. You can get on Amazon. It used to be dirt cheap. It went up to like $10 a bag, but it's still worth it as far as I'm concerned. I like this stuff for around water dishes to absorb and hold on to some moisture. This stuff is the New Zealand sphagnum moss. I use this as well. It just doesn't look as pretty because obviously it's tan, but I like this stuff to put in the back around and shove kind of inside starter burrows. They can use this stuff if they want to construct a turret in the back. We've got leaf litter. I believe it's magnolia. Pretty crunchy. We're gonna have to break some of this up. Plants. Now, I just bought a bunch of plants. Heads up on the plants. I've been buying these really cheap ones. Obviously, they can be used in terrariums. This looks more like aquarium on Amazon, and I get some really good deals on them. I would encourage folks, I've had people ask, do you wash them off? Yes, I soak them usually for 48 hours or so because some of the ones like this, there's dyes and stuff. You want to make sure you get all that stuff out and then rinse them off really well. But besides that, I've never had an issue with any of these plants. So I bought some of these. Now, unfortunately, what I ran into when I was setting up is I found ones that were appropriately sized. And then, unfortunately, all I have left for the 4th plant is this really tall one. So what we're going to do is we're going to plant this one in the back all the way down the bottom, cover it up with substrate so the leaves are out. We have multiple pieces of cork bark. I think what I'm going to try to do is create a couple, like a little structure of cork bark in the back so they can decide whether they want to burrow or bring it up and create their little turrets. And unfortunately, this is driving me nuts. I have these water dishes that some folks probably recognize. They come with the reptile growth or barbarous growth enclosures as part of the, what is it? The bigger marbles, I think, have them. I have 5 of them, but 2 of them I have in with roaches. So I only have 3 that match. This is driving me nuts because I love when everything matches. So I will be putting a different enclosure, different water dish in the other one. And these are kind of shallow. So for now that the weather outside, you know, it gets kind of humid here, I don't need a huge water dish. These will evaporate rather quickly. I may end up replacing them down the road when winter comes and I want a little more, you know, evaporation in there and I want the water to stay longer. I may change them and switch them up with something a little deeper, but they'll be great for now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to move a couple of these enclosures down the floor so Billy can hopefully watch me work and get some good angles. It's going to be tough for her because I tend to not be cognizant of the fact that she's trying to see what I'm doing. We'll start off, we'll do maybe 1 or 2 of them today. I know folks like watching these. I just get bored doing them, quite frankly. So for this one here, like I said, we're going to start off. I've dug a hole already in the back, and we're going to try to plant this one and pray that it actually, oh yeah, that'll work. Pray that it actually allows me to fit these in here. And there we go. All that work I did letting the top layer dry out, and we're messing it all up. Stupid plants. So we're going to go ahead and backfill that in there. It's like a real plant. We're actually planting it. Go, go, go. Now, we'll see what happens. If it burrows, it could be interesting because it's going to end up burrowing down to that plant, but it should be fine. And what this will allow is if they want to build one of the turrets, what I found is with a situation like this with the plants, they'll start digging up. We're going to put some cork bark around here. They'll start a little hide behind the cork bark, and then they web up, and it comes right over the top. So obviously, this is one that I would love to put some of these guys into something even deeper to allow for that. But if they don't use it, if they don't bring up that dirt, if they don't build the turret, a high turret, that's wasted space and kind of it could be a safety hazard if I give them too much height. So let's see what we have here. We're going to use this one. Put it right under here. Yeah, that'll work. And I'm going to put a little starter burr, and then I'm probably going to put another one over top that, this one here. And I'm going to put a starter burrow underneath there. And then for some of the moss, I'm going to shove some of this around here. So again, what we're going to, what the moss does, this isn't so much for moisture. This is for coverage. A lot of times I've seen them go down underneath the moss and they kind of start webbing under there, and that starts off as their home base. And again, for material, if she should decide to take this whole mess here and start making the turrets out of it, which is kind of what I'm hoping to see. Stupid plant. The worst part is I have a smaller plant, but I have it in with my Poecilotheria vittata. And she doesn't use it. It was just meant to look pretty, and I was going to pull it out this morning, but she was quite active, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to upset her for this. All right, so let's get some of that in there. And then what I usually do is with a paintbrush, I go through and I make a starter burrow. So again, this could be a home base for the spider until it starts going out and webbing everything. And then we're going to add some leaf litter. I'm going to crunch this stuff. Oh, a little ASMR. And again, this is debris that it can use if it wants to go ahead and make one of those turrets. And this should be a nice area for it to go. And I'm guessing, all right, either this side or this side it's going to end up in when it goes and settles down, like right in there or the other side. But we'll see. I always like trying to predict where they're going to end up and seeing where they end up afterwards. So that one's looking pretty good. And then obviously I will put these in after the spider's in, but the water dish, and I like using the water dish to tamp things down. The water dish will go right in there, which is good because the water dish, which will be basically evaporating as things get warm in here, is right by all that ventilation area, which is good because the top, I think I showed the top off, right? Well, I'm going to grab a top so I can show top is also well ventilated. So this spot here will allow that extra moisture to escape so it won't get too nasty in there. What you don't want is a situation where it's a stagnant enclosure where you're getting all kinds of condensation on the side. That's not a good thing. You want that airflow. So there's one setup. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. We'll do a second. This is kind of fun. All right. So this one I think I'm going to use my brain first. Stick some of this in here before we put the other stuff in. And this one we're going to give, which one do I got here? Murinus. Use this one right here. There we go, with the crickets going in the background. And again, we're going to try to do put a little hole in there. Hole down there. I don't know if I'm going to use any of the green moss because I don't think I really need it. So we'll put some around the water dish when we set it up. Crunchy. There we go. Just go how much? We can probably do the other ones. Get that one out of the way. Next we have rufescens. Again, some of the moss. This plant here. Now, these, I think this is one of the silk plants. The silk plants are great for webbing because the web will stick really well to the silk plants. The only problem is poop and webbing won't come off it when you try to clean them up. So it can be a nightmare to clean up. And that's what I had with this one. I soaked it. I tried to get all the poop off. I mean, it's clean, but there's still some poop stains. What's a little poop stain, right? And what we're doing here is creating, so there's a little cavity under there. There'll be a cavity there. Give them a couple different places to go for. There we go. And might as well do the last one. Next, we got cyanognathus, and we're going to go ahead and stick this over here. And then we're going to stick some of these in. This is the one I hope kind of builds the turret. Put that up a little bit and try to encourage it to go over there. Starter burrow. And leaves. Crispy leaves. There we go. So now we have our 4 closures set up. Now remember, I will be adding water dishes to these afterwards. This one here. Now these, I'm guessing these will be pretty for a couple months, and then as they start webbing the snot out of them and digging, it won't look so pretty, but I do love the way the enclosures look when you start off. So there we go. 4 enclosures set up for my Ephobopus or Ephobopus species. We will do that rehousing. Well, all 4 of those rehousings in a moment. And I do have extras that will be going into these enclosures as well, but we're only going to show 4 of them to start. So now on to the actual rehousings. Oops. All right, so we're going to start this one off with the cyanognathus, or the blue fang. It's called the blue fang because the spider's Clarissora are a bright blue under a radiant blue under light. I'm going to try to flash up a picture of one I got, or a video I got of mine hunting where I caught some of that blue. They're very tricky to catch out because, again, every single one of these spiders we're going to be rehousing is very shy and very skittish. So I just want to make that very, very clear. But I got these ones. I have no footage of these because I got them in January 2023. After I got the other ones that we're going to rehouse, and I was too tired to do a video for it. So apparently we have nothing of them. I thought I did a video of these guys, but I couldn't find it when I looked it up. I don't know if I combined it with something or what. But anyway, awesome spiders. Smaller species. These guys supposedly get to be about 4 to 5 inches or 10 to 12.7 centimeters. So a 4-inch female is actually sexually mature. So probably medium-sized spiders overall. And we'll be pretty much saying that for all of the Ephobopus species that we're going to rehouse today. So when I got them as slings, just a heads up, I'm going to show some older video of me rehousing some of the other ones. As slings, I would keep these guys either, if they're smaller slings, in dram vials. Larger slings, I kept them in the 20-ounce deli cup. And they basically have to ventilate the deli cups. I put in a couple inches of substrate, kept the bottom moist, tried to keep the top from getting too wet, a little sprig, a little leaf or something for cover, and some sphagnum moss is great to give them something to hide beneath before they start burrowing. And then what mine all did was they burrowed down and they webbed up top. So I did find it very tricky to find out when they were in pre-molt because they wouldn't necessarily close up their burrows when they were in pre-molt, and I couldn't see the spiders, so that became tricky. So what I would do is usually when I started to feel like they'd be in pre-molt, I'd pre-kill a prey item and drop it on top. So that way, if they weren't eating, I could pluck it out the next day and the prey item wouldn't harm them at all. So what they are in now are these here, which are the Sterilite latch containers. I love these for my juvenile species, and they offer a decent amount of space, or large slings, and Billy wants to take a peek in there. Maybe, I don't think we're going to see her fangs because she's down there, but she's down in that hole in there. Nope. These containers are 7 5/8 by 5 5/8 by 6 inches high, or 19.4 centimeters by 14.3 centimeters by 15.2 centimeters. When I set these up, I'll show some of the, again, the rehousings, but I had a few inches of moist substrate in them so they could do some burrowing. I put some cork bark leaned up on the side so they could either burrow underneath there or you'll see one of the specimens we're going to rehouse later, did one of the turrets up the top, and then obviously some sphagnum moss and a water dish. Now this one here, when I rehouse her, you can tell I left the old enclosure in. What she did was originally created a web burrow into that old original enclosure. So that was originally her burrow right there. And then when this got too tight, she went out, dug over here, and then webbed up over here, which I thought was pretty cool, which is why we're going to focus on this one today. Now, we're going to try to get some images of these guys when we get them out. I've mentioned this before, I don't do spider photo shoots. Like, I don't tease my spiders out to get pictures of them. This is where I get pictures of them. So hopefully we can get her out and about, not have her be too crazy, and see what she looks like. At least, in the very least, see those fangs. But hopefully this one here is probably young adult size. So she's probably around, I'd say 3.5 inches or so. Let me get this out of the way. And this is going to be tricky. Oh, and a note about the paper towels on the side. I haven't done this in a while. The paper towels are here because this spider gets out in the open, she may bolt. And what happens is you put the crumpled up paper towels in here because if they bolt and get underneath the paper towels, they feel it's darker, they feel more secure, and they'll usually stop there. And then you can take the paper towel up and get the spider out. Or you can put the catch cup right under here, poke underneath the paper towel, have the spider get out. And that keeps it from sprinting around the enclosure. We'll see if it works today because I have a funny feeling these guys are going to be a handful. This whole, okay, let's get some shots of her there. I'm going to get catch cup ready. Or the blue, of course, she's covering up her Clarissora, which are the appendages that have the fangs attached to them. I don't see the blue. Gorgeous. I love the yellow banding.
Really pretty.
It's stunning. All right, you know what I think I'm going to try? I'm going to let you get some footage. Hopefully she doesn't move, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the smaller catch cup in front of her and poke her butt and see if I can't get her in it. That is, you know, blue fang aside, that's gorgeous. I love the yellow banding. That's really, really vibrant. No. Nope, there's the blue.
look purple.
Darn it. All right, let me see if I can get her out.
She's so cute.
Well, that's what happens. This would have been the easiest rehousing ever if I had. So, you know, nope. So this one is oh, look at these guys are very closely related to Psalmopoeus species, and you can see that would almost, like if somebody had showed me a picture of this, I'd never seen the spider before, I'd go, oh, it looks like a juvenile Psalmopoeus. You can see the big front legs. See right in, I don't know if you can see it, those right in there.
Yep.
Very cool. And this wasn't the catch cup I wanted to use. I'm a dingus. I want to use a smaller one. It's but maybe we'll finally get our sponsorship. I don't know if you got a shot of her. Oh, look at the green. Is that coming out?
On her butt?
Yeah. This is stunning. It's a shame. The only issue I have with these guys, now heads up, obviously anybody that's watching my channel knows I love fossorial species. My big thing is when you see a fossorial species out, it makes it worthwhile. Even if it's once a year, it's all worthwhile. Some people aren't into that. Now, I've had people go, why would I want to keep just a thing of dirt and I never see the spider? The good thing about these guys is when you do see them, they hang out at the mouth of their burrow. You see those fangs, which is awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and try to get her into this new enclosure, which is going to be quite big. There you go. There we go.
Damn, she's fast.
Yeah, this is a fast spider.
Holy Moses.
All right, now, unfortunately, they all want to go up. We're going to shoot out of this like a
Yeah,
cannon.
I know. Just thinking that.
I don't think I cut up cardboard. Honey, you got to go on the ground. And if you want to hang out for a little while, that would be fantastic. And she's going to hang out. Oh, God bless you. Let's get some light in there. There's that green. Yeah, look at how that pops.
That's amazing.
Sorry, I'm making all kinds of shadows with the... Wow. Then you see the blue.
Barely see the blue.
Yeah. She almost camouflage in with those leaves.
Yep. Those yellow bands are amazing.
Yeah, I think that's just a striking feature as the blue. All right, so let's let her go and do her thing while we put the cap on this. I might ease her over to...
Oh, man, I got to
got the blue?
Got the blue.
Oh, perfect. Actually, you can see that blue fang that gives them their common name. And she's probably about 3 inches or so. Is that good?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Gorgeous. Not talking a lot on this one because it's just so darn pretty. Now, what I'm hoping that this one will do is settle somewhere around back in here. Start there, start webbing, and then I'm hoping, we'll see. Either she'll burrow, she's got plenty, she can go into this hole right in here. There's obviously a starter burrow in there. Start burrowing in there, or come up top, start webbing, and we get one of those turrets. So we've given her definitely enough debris to make the turret out of it. We'll see how it goes. But stunning. So I am in awe of this one. I've never really seen one of these out and about. So to actually see the blue, I just think is an added perk. The rest of the overall appearance with that gold banding and the green on the abdomen and the green on the carapace, just stunning. So we're going to go ahead and let her settle down. And we're going to go on to the next one. Whoop, there she goes. This over here. Ooh. Who should we do next? Let's do Outtman. Oh, there we go. And I'm going to take the water dish out. I think I mentioned this earlier, but I usually don't keep the water dish in there while I do the rehousings because it can get in the way. Who is up for a rehouse? Let's show this. Both of these did turrets. All right, so this is one of the Ephobopus or Ephobopus uatumans. And you can see this one here. That's the turret I'm talking about. It webbed all the way up the top, all the way up. This used to be connected to here, and this is when I knew they were ready for a rehouse. So she had like a little tunnel, and when I dropped crickets in, she'd come out, or roaches, she'd come out here and go hunting, and then scramble right back up and go down into her burrow. And I think this is probably because this is too shallow now to accommodate a burrow, the size of a burrow she would like. So I'm thinking she will like the extra space in this new one. Now, as far as the next 3 species we're going to rehouse, these are the ones I got from Erin Cashel back in June of 2022. She had told me I need to get Ephobopus species. She breeds them, a very prolific breeder, especially with the Ephobopus. She's always got Ephobopus available. And she sent me 3 of the species, which were murinus, rufescens, and uatuman. And I had the slings. I've raised them up. We did the rehousing. The first rehousing we did was in January of 2023. And that's when we moved all of them into these here, the juvenile enclosures. So they grew rather quickly early on. And I think part of it I wasn't realizing is that they're a smaller species overall. So they didn't seem to be putting on a ton of size, but they were actually marching right onto adulthood rather quickly. So now we got them in June of 2022. We're in June of 2024. So it's 2 years later, and we're putting them into their adult enclosures. Now this one here, I think I may have some footage of this one out and about. I can't remember. I caught one of them out and I was so excited about it.
It's July, not June, just so you know.
It's July?
Yeah, it's
oh
almost,
God, I gotta
July
go back.
is almost
Oh
over.
yeah, okay, it was close enough. June, July, same thing. It's one of those J months, like March and May. So apparently I cheated with these too. I just dropped it in. Now, the last one made it so easy for us that I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this one will not. It's looking really gangly. Is that a male?
Yeah, totally gangly.
I think that's a male. If it's a male, we're going to switch up. This is my big thing is the males. I'll put in a decent enclosure, but I don't like spending all this time setting up an enclosure. Shoot. I think that one's, I've already had a male on one of these too, so I thought I probably had 2 females. All right, I'm going to get the other one. I'm going to put this back in. I'm going to get the other one, put the water dish back in, and we'll do that one instead. I might have, wait, whoop. All right, I will check on that other one later to see if it's a male. We'll do this one instead, which I didn't want to do because her enclosure is a disaster. Like this one is really, you can see that web turret. She went right up the side here. You can see where she pulled in the cork bark, the leaf litter, and that's what we're talking about as far as a turret. And that's why we're giving them extra room. So this will be a good one to put in here because I did give them extra fake foliage for the turreting. Oh boy. Nope.
Holy Moses.
She is all the way down there. A wee one. Pretty little spiders. Now the uatuman, the common name is the, what is it? The red skeleton tarantula? No, emerald skeleton tarantula. These are the guys that are supposed to have the green on the carapace and the abdomen, which I think you can kind of see the abdomen there. Some of that green. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to prod her out into the smaller catch cup and see if we can't get some footage of her. No, you got to go up there. See if we get shots of. She's looking pretty chubby, so she's probably in pre-molt. You can see those back legs. And again, the fluffy front legs, like Ephobopus, thinner back legs. All right, let's see if we can get her out. And we're not going to mess with her too much because if she is in pre-molt, oh, I don't know if the green booty will show up. She's looking quite chubby. Yeah, it's showing up a little bit. Looks a lot like the cyanognathus, just without the fangs.
Yeah.
Like same banding. All right. All right, honey, run free. There she is. Get a shot of that one. Try to get some extra light. What a beauty. Yeah, the funny thing is the other one actually, the cyanognathus actually had more green on it than this one did. Although she does look super fat, so I'm guessing she's probably close to pre-molt, so the colors will be much more vibrant after she molts out. But gorgeous little spider. This one here, what would you say, 2 3/4, 3 inches?
Yeah, that's about right.
So getting close to adult size. What a pretty one. All right, we're going to leave her alone because if she isn't pre-molt, we don't want to disturb her more than we have. What's that? Yeah, I'm going to.
There we go.
Yeah, because we're going to need this again.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This is the one I went to grab for earlier, and I just went for the Simply Lyman. All right. So let's get the cap on that one, and then we'll probably break here for a second so we can clean up around here and get on to the 3rd and 4th specimens we're going to do. So we'll pause here for a second. It's just going to go right to the next video, but for us, we're going to take a break for a second, clean up a little bit, and then do the next 2. All right, so we're back with the next one we're going to do. This one is Ephobopus or Ephobopus murinus, or the skeleton tarantula. Again, another skeleton tarantula. So we did the, what was the other one? The green skeleton tarantula. The emerald skeleton tarantula. We did the blue fang, and now we have the skeleton tarantula. So these guys, I did have one of these years ago, and I planned on doing a video on them then, and it ended up being a matured out male. So I didn't get a lot of footage of it. The male wasn't nearly as pretty as the lady. What we're going to do is, nah, it's probably not going to, hold on. What I may do, this may work, it may not. Darn it. I really wish I could get my tongs out of there. Well, there's the legs. I don't know if Billy can get a shot of that. Those legs are gorgeous. That's what gives them the name skeleton tarantula. There we go. You can see it looks like little bones on their legs. I was so interested in these early on when I first got into the hobby. I was so excited about getting one because I read they were New World species, and then I did a little more research and found out that they were fossorial. They needed moisture, and they could be a little bit defensive if caught out in the open. So I passed on them for a while, but then I finally got my male and loved him, but was really upset when it turned out to be a male. And then finally we have what I believe are 2 females. And this is one of them there. But awesome looking spiders. Very, very striking. Now these get a little bit bigger than the other species. I believe females can get to be 5 or 6 inches or so, which is 12.7 to 5.25 centimeters. So slightly larger, but she should be fine in this enclosure. And, No. Ah, you punk. Make it easy for me. Oh, my Lord. I don't know if that's showing up.
She's big.
Yeah, she's a good size one. Well, this is the one I caught out. I was like, all right, it's time. I've been waiting to do this video for obviously a couple of years. I don't know how well that's showing up through the plastic, but gorgeous. I'm going to try to get her into the new enclosure, and hopefully she'll hang out a bit. What a beauty. So she's probably, guessing about, she's stretched out 4 inches or so. Still kind of a young adult. No. All right. This way. Hoping we can get her to sit outside for a bit.
Ooh, Lord.
She's attacking the brush? Yeah, she's got the brush. Honey, I need that.
Mad bro.
No, let's get some footage of her because she's out in the open now. Is that showing up good?
Yeah.
Ooh. What a pretty spider. That's a picture. I wish I could use that for the, if you want to turn, see if I can turn it so you can get a better, fill up the camera a little bit more. That might be our thumbnail. What a great shot. You can see that light-colored carapace, the browner hairs on the abdomen, the black femurs, and then all down the patella, down the lower legs, those bone-like patterns that give them a name, skeleton spider. And obviously, being a fan of everything horror, you have to have the skeleton spiders. What a beautiful girl. All right, we're going to let her settle down. Although she calmed down pretty well after she told me she didn't want me shoving that paintbrush up her butt. Go figure. We get the top for this one. We'll Billy get some more shots. Yeah, that's going to be our thumbnail. And again, I will put the water dishes in after. I always like to mention that because somebody will come on and go, you didn't put a water dish in that. Like, I always put them in. Usually Billy, anybody that watches the videos knows Billy will remind me at some point, you didn't put the water dish in. All right, so let's get ready for the next round. Now, while we're getting ready for this one, I'll talk a bit about behavior for these guys. From what I've seen, and this goes for all of them, very, very shy, skittish spiders. So very shy. They don't want to be bothered. They want to be left alone. They want to go in their burrows, but very skittish, meaning that if you catch them out in the open, I've had them race around. This one here in particular, I went to feed her. She got startled by the prey item, and she basically did a couple laps around her enclosure, went back down in her burrow. Or what you saw earlier, they will throw up a threat posture and they will attack if they're cornered. And you can't blame them. I mean, obviously anything, I don't call that aggressive behavior. A lot of folks will sit there and say, well, they're aggressive spiders. They're not aggressive. It's a spider that's threatened. It's going to defend itself. And if it's cornered, it doesn't have very much left. If you're a predator, you're a huge predator. The only thing it can do, throw up its legs, make itself look bigger. And if you try to come in to grab it, bite you so that hopefully you leave it alone. So we're going to go ahead and put this one down here. And we got our last one. Which is the rufescens, or the red skeleton. Right? Is that what we got here? All right, and this is the one I think I caught out. It wasn't the other one. Get this out of the way. This is already starting to get, you can see where it's little moldy bolus. That's one of those things you want to pluck out. All right. So This is the one I rarely ever see. The other one I think is the one I catch out more. I have no idea where the spider is. Oh boy, no, she's not here. Oh, well, where's she? Oh boy. There's another one of the water dishes, so if anybody thinks I don't put water dishes in. I think she's in there, but I don't want to start digging. Yeah, doesn't look like there's anything else in here. So I'm going to put this over here and cap it. I'm going to try to figure out where this girl is. What the heck? Up. Right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get a look at this one. Again with the yellow banding. I'm loving it. Oh, there we go. Whoop. Yeah, these guys are pretty. This is the one I think I have some footage of. Again with the yellowish orange banding. You see the overall ruddy appearance to her, like a burgundy or deep red. I'm going to try to get her out so we can get better shots. But very pretty. All right. It looks pretty plump too. Ooh, good size. You're going to eat the brush too, aren't you? Oh, gorgeous. I'll try to get her down in here. Very similar appearance, all of them, with the exception of the murinus. Beautiful. All right, let's get her in here. Now, as far as the size of this species, the rufescens gets to be about 4 to 5 inches or so, or 10 to 12.7 centimeters. So 4.5 inches. That's a medium-sized spider, not overly large. So I think they'll be fine in here, quite frankly. I was a little worried they might get too big for these enclosures, but recognize that 4-inch spider spread out is about that big. When they are moving around, they're about that big. She's going to be perfectly fine. All right, honey. If you could pose, whoop, that's a flashlight dropping. A little jump scare. If you could pose for me a little bit.
Holy Moses. Lord.
She's not gripping well, which makes me think she's... Nope. No, you can't
Lord.
come out there. There you go. Oh, yeah, I love that coloration. Oh, there she goes. That's exactly what we want, honestly. As much as I'd love to get footage of them, I know that once they get into those little areas, they're much more secure, and that's what it's about. We're not trying to freak them out any. Adorable. All right, so a couple overall notes on these guys. As far as feeding goes, as slings, I was feeding them. Usually I feed my slings once or twice a week. These guys I was feeding once a week. Again, it was kind of difficult sometimes to see if they were eating. So I was dropping in small red runner roaches Once they got to the point where I'm like, this spider could be in pre-molt, then I would pre-kill, leave it on the top. If it was there the next day, figure they were probably in pre-molt. If it was gone, figure they were probably eating. For juveniles, I fed my juveniles every other week or so. At that point, they were eating, medium-sized roaches, medium-sized or red runner roaches, medium-sized crickets, something along that size. Now, when they're this size, I've been dropping in large crickets and they eat them, no problem. Behavior, we've gone over that. They are skittish. They are shy. Give them space. That's why Billy backs up. The reason why we have this enclosure set up with all this extra room, we want this spider to have space, be able to set up its home base, come out, feel comfortable so you're not right on top of it. They will throw up threat postures if they're cornered, but again, just keep in mind, it's not the spider being aggressive, it's defending itself because it feels like you're a threat. As far as temperatures up here in the summertime are around, always been about 80 to 85 degrees or so. Usually it gets 85. I try to cool things off a little bit, but at 80, high 70s, mid 80s. And then in the wintertime, I usually keep the tarantula room right around 73 degrees or so. It'll sometimes dip below that into the high 60s. They did just fine during those periods and grew quite well during those periods. And then again, they are known to be fossorial, but don't be surprised if they do build some of those little volcanoes, those little turrets up the side. I'm kind of hoping one of them will fill this entire area here with some type of webbing and a turret, and then I can drop prey at them. They'll come out and grab it. But awesome spiders overall, a decent growth rate, fairly easy to keep. Overall, I have had folks say that they've struggled with those, and I did lose one of the murinus. Basically, I rehoused it, put it into a 20-ounce deli cup. It had moist substrate, had good ventilation. It just didn't live. Now, that was probably just failure to thrive, but heads up, when we did a while ago, I did a podcast like the most difficult slings to raise up, and a couple people said they struggled with Ephobopus. But my first one, my male, was just fine. The other two are doing just fine. These guys are all doing great. All right, so that will do it for the rehousings. I'm glad they went well. We're going to go ahead and rehouse the other ones off camera, but I wanted to show these off. I will obviously do updates as time goes on. What I'm hoping to show is some burrowing and some of that behavior where they actually go up top, web up, and create those little turrets. So Ephobopus species, we did the cyanognathus, we did the E. murinus, we did the E. rufescens, we did the E. Outtman. Amazing spiders. Very excited to raise them up and grow them up finally. And a huge thank you to Erin Cashel, who is the one that obviously got me the majority of these. She said that I would love them. She was right. They're absolutely amazing. So again, a couple keys to these guys. As you see, and when I put enclosures in here, it's just to show you guys what I'm using. I try to give some suggestions, some sizes that you can look at. The trick with these guys is when they're smaller, you want to make sure that you have something that allows them to grow a little bit. So a larger dram vial or the 20-ounce deli cups work great for them. They're going to grow rather quickly overall, so you want to make sure you give them a little space to do so. You also want to make sure you keep them on moist substrate at all times. I've heard from people that had difficulty keeping them that I asked, is the substrate moist? They're like, no, it's dry. I thought they were dry species. This is a species that is recognized as being kind of moisture dependent, or these are species that are recognized as being moisture dependent, meaning they need that moisture. So moist substrate, keep those bottom levels moist, allow the top to dry out a little bit. You can mist a little bit. I know misting has fallen out of favor as far as a sole way to keep your tarantulas hydrated, but I always liked every once in a while at night before bed, and some of the spiders, you can mist the side of it and they can come drink off of that. Water dish, moist substrate, they'll do fine, and then give them room. You want to give them enough substrate to burrow in and to keep that substrate moist, but you also want to give them room up top so when they bring the dirt up, there's a place to put it. Or as you saw with some of these, they end up building those turrets out of web and debris inside their enclosure, so you want to make sure they have room to do so, because these are fast spiders. I don't think I mentioned it during the video. They're very, very fast spiders. They're very flighty, and you want to make sure that you give them that opportunity when you set them up to either run down into the burrow or run into their web structures and hide, so you don't have a spider that's racing around the enclosure, possibly coming out of the enclosure, or throwing up a threat posture. So I think that's why these guys get a bad rep for their personalities or their temperaments, because if you don't keep them correctly, give them room to do what they need to do, you may have a more ornery or defensive spider. And a word on the enclosures. I've been following these since they came out. I do love the new ones, and I'm glad they have more ventilation. For folks who want to check them out, I am going to put links down in the description. You can get them at Amazon. I think they're like $50.99 or something with free shipping, or you can get them on her site. She did give me a code for folks to use that are coming from here to go see the video, but I noticed when going around her site this morning, everybody gets 10% off on the site. If you go on, there's a thing that keeps popping up. So I'll put it down there just in case it's only a one-time thing and you want to go back and reorder. But go ahead, check it out. They're really cool enclosures. She's doing other stuff. If I find something I think works great for spiders, you'll hear about it. You know me. If I find something I like to buy them, use them for myself, and show them off so people know what's out there. And I think these are really cool for smaller fossorial species, or even maybe medium-sized terrestrials that may want to do some digging. So the Authentic Joy enclosure is very cool. Really enjoying these. And if anybody else is out there has feedback on them, feel free to chime in. So that will do it for this one. Again, if you liked it enough to subscribe, very much appreciate. Click the little circle up in here. I'm going to put the original Sling video down here, the Juvenile one up here, so you guys can go back and watch it all the way from the beginning, how I've cared for these guys. If you take the time to comment, know that I will respond, but it can take me a few days. I tend to get a lot of comments. I tend to get behind. So there you go. Guys, as always, stay safe. Catch you all next time.